I wasn't going to talk about this till later, but I guess we should talk a little bit about Diddy because that's where it came from. This Diddy case is so big that it has changed literally conversations about celebrity culture. Now that I think about it, it's really, and look, the trial will be coming up in May. I actually, at that party, I had a conversation with someone that knew him, and they brought up the Peacock documentary that I did, because if you guys, I know that I've talked about this on Trigger Warning before. TT and I have obviously talked about the Diddy case. I think the first time that we even sat down for this show, it was because we were both so shocked by all of the allegations that were coming out against Puffy. It's been a crazy year for news related to this Puff Daddy, Diddy, whatever you want to call him, case. It's been a crazy year. So I've been following this case since, well, look, I've been following Diddy's career for a very long time, since I've been following anyone's career, since I've been a writer. So this, to me, I feel like this Diddy case is the biggest news that's come out of this culture in a long time, at least, right? From what I can remember. My memory is bad these days, but this case is like something else. And, people are split down the middle. There's people who believe that he did those things, and there's people who will not believe it. I just had a conversation today about, well, even if some of that stuff is true, I don't believe this. I don't believe he, sexually assaulted men, right? Like, there are so many allegations in the Diddy cases, and I say cases because they're plural. I don't know what to believe anymore. And I'm not saying that I believe everything. What I'm saying is I'm looking at the cases and I'm studying, I'm reading the cases, I'm reading the allegations. I hope that it's not true. I don't know why people think sometimes when I do these things or podcasts and I'm asked questions and I talk about it, I don't know why people think I want him to be guilty. That is not the case. I'm just reading the terrain, and I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and I'm looking at what the prosecution has as evidence, or what we may know to have been true based on just having information over the years. So I do not wish any ill on Diddy. I think just by reporting on this case, it's very controversial. So, and like I said, I've talked about this before. When people ask me to speak about these type of topics, whether I know the person or not, I am a professional that would speak on that. So I was interviewed for the Peacock documentary that came out on Diddy. Now, this is controversial right now because Diddy has filed a lawsuit against NBC for that documentary. And the allegations, I think it's a defamation case, but it's, what is it, like a couple $100 million? Let me look at this, because I really want to make sure that as I'm talking about this, that I report this properly. And there's been so many numbers out there and so many allegations and so many cases that I want to make sure I get this right. But it was the Peacock doc that interviewed me. And it's so crazy because people are like, oh, some people were like, well, why would you do that? They're asking me about his career. I didn't even really speak about the allegations in that documentary. And one of the controversial things in the Peacock doc was that Al B. Shore did an interview, and he hasn't really spoke out a lot against Puff. But, behind the scenes, we know the story. We know that Al B. Shore had a son with Kim Porter, Quincy and that Puffy is Quincy's stepfather, and that he's raised, or let me say that he has helped to raise, right? Because there are a lot of allegations in there and a lot of claims that Albie Shore made about why he wasn't as present in his son's life as people might have thought. So I wasn't there when they were raising him. I don't know who was there, who wasn't there, how many times he tried to help his son or maybe tried to call and couldn't. He claims in the documentary that Kim Porter told him to stay away and that it was a safety thing. So the implication was that Puffy would do something to Albie Shore. The allegation, let me make sure I'm clear, alleges, if he were to step in certain situations. And there were statements made by him in the documentary that might, and I don't know exactly what he said. I don't want to misspeak. But it might lead people to believe that there was foul play in the death of Kim Porter. I never read the coroner's reports. I don't know. What do you guys think? I have no idea, but this is what Albie Shore, not what he said, but these are the things that people may have been led to believe by the things that he was saying in that documentary. And I think that is where the lawsuit stems from that Diddy is filing. So I will read a little of this so we say it the right way. He's suing NBC Universal over the documentary that he says falsely accuses him of being a serial murderer who had sex with underage girls as he awaits trial on federal sex trafficking charge. That's from the Mining Journal. A spokesperson for NBC Universal. What did they say here? From his childhood to becoming a mogul, this raw look at Sean Combs' journey through exclusive footage and candid interviews explores his rise, controversies, and the man behind the music. That was the description of the documentary on Peacock's website. So Diddy is seeking no less than $100 million in damages. And I'm just kind of reading out. Okay, let's get this right. Erica Wolf, an attorney for Combs, said NBC and the other entities named in the suit were, quote, maliciously and recklessly broadcast outrageous lies in order to, quote, line their own pockets by driving viewership to the documentary. I mean, they could make that argument. Remember, you could sue anybody for anything, right? So they're saying Mr. Combs brings this lawsuit to hold defendants accountable for the extraordinary damage that their reckless statements have caused. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there right now. So I believe him filing this lawsuit is really making a statement, right? Because you're going after a conglomerate like NBC Universal. Let's see what else they say. In making and broadcasting these falsehoods, among others, defendants seek only to capitalize on the public's appetite for scandal without any regard for the truth and at the expense of Mr. Combs' right to a fair trial. This is from his attorney, Erica Wolf. I mean, if I was the attorney, I'd make that argument too, right? Like that was, I don't think that there has been another documentary that addresses the Kim Porter scandal the way that this documentary had. So it seems to be that that is what they are basing the lawsuit on. And I don't have the complaint in front of me, but I'm sure once I read it and when Titi comes back, I want to have a conversation, I think, about this because it's a question, right? Like I've heard people talk about a lot of these documentaries and whether or not they're legit. Are they true documentaries, right? By definition of the word documentary. We don't really know because people throw that word documentary around all the time. So, I mean, having reputable journalists and producers and, and look, I've worked on some of these shows before, so I know what the rights and clearances process is like and how the lawyers have to go through the show before they put it out, and they've got to look and make sure that they've done everything that they need to do to protect themselves. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think, just to watch how this plays out. And, him being, he's still locked up in Brooklyn, him being behind bars and choosing this one, I think is interesting. I also know, because I did watch the 5-part documentary that HBO, no, let me not say HBO, is it Max? I'm not sure. Because nowadays you can watch things on different platforms. I don't know. I just go on my computer and I watch it. It's HBO Max, I believe. But that was also one that I would think damaged his reputation. But I haven't seen, and not to say that he isn't going to file, but I haven't seen a lawsuit from Diddy against that documentary or the TMZ documentary. So maybe the lawyers went through this and maybe they're setting up to file more cases against other networks and production companies way later. Or maybe there was something in the Peacock doc that the lawyers saw and were like, hold on, this is against, they can't say this. We can prove that this is false, right? Because you have to prove that it's false. So there might be something in that documentary that they caught and based the lawsuit on. But I haven't seen the lawsuit against the other docs. And look, that 5-part Diddy doc, Diddy Do It, Diddy, I don't even know all of these names, right? You got the Netflix one that's supposedly produced by 50 Cent that's coming down. I don't know when that's coming out, right? Or even what more are they going to say? Like, how many times am I going to hear about the City College thing and it's really the victim stories that I think people want to see. And that 5-part doc had a couple of victims in there that we'd never seen before, or at least we've seen them, but we didn't hear detail by detail what had happened, So I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think without coming at me online to tell me how I'm a hater just because I'm like reporting. Stop. We're just analyzing this stuff here. We love to analyze it. Everybody's a detective online, right? So we're looking at everything and trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. And I think there have been a ton of accusations, a ton of lawsuits now. I don't even know how many there are because I can't keep up. Do I think that some of these lawsuits are frivolous? Yeah, I think there are a lot of people that are just jumping in, figuring out what they can get. Do I believe that some of them could be a money grab? Yeah, but I always say, like, where there's smoke, there's fire. So, I'm looking at these cases and it just doesn't look good. We will see when the trial comes up in May. Let's let it play out. I don't know how you get, an impartial jury with all of this stuff that's out there. Everyone has seen it. Like, who are they going to interview as jurors that haven't been following what's going on? I feel like everyone's following what's going on.